Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Noor Daily English Podcast. I am your host, Rose, and I am so incredibly happy you are here with us today.
And I am Alex. And Rose, I have a feeling today's episode is going to be one of the most powerful ones we have ever recorded.
Alex, I genuinely think so too, because today we are not just talking about English. We are talking about something that touches almost every single person's life, something that many people experience, but very few know how to talk about, especially in English.
Before we get into today's topic, I want to ask our listeners something. And I want you to really think about this honestly. Have you ever been in a relationship, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, a work relationship, where you constantly felt drained, where you felt like you were never good enough, where the other person made you feel small, confused, or guilty, even when you had done nothing wrong?
That is a heavy question, but an important one.
Continuing, or maybe you have watched someone you love go through this, and you wanted to help them. You wanted to say something, but you did not have the words, especially in English, to describe what was happening or how to talk about it.
If either of those situations resonates with you, today's episode is made for you. Because today, Rose and Alex are going to teach you how to talk about toxic relationships in English with the right vocabulary, the right phrases, the right understanding.
And before we go any further, if you are new to Noor Daily English, welcome. We are so genuinely glad you found us, and we have one small request. Please tap that subscribe button right now. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it means everything to us because every subscriber tells us, keep going, keep making episodes that matter. And today's episode really matters.
We started Noor Daily English because we believe English is more than grammar and vocabulary. English is a tool for understanding your world, for expressing your feelings, for having the conversations that matter most.
And few conversations matter more than the ones about the relationships in our lives. Today, we are going to cover 7 powerful sections. We are going to learn the vocabulary of toxic relationships. We are going to practice real phrases. We are going to have honest conversations about what toxicity looks like in different relationships. And we are going to give you the language to recognize it, talk about it, and move forward from it.
And I want to say something important before we begin. Talking about toxic relationships does not mean hating people. It does not mean blaming everyone around you. It means having enough self-awareness and enough vocabulary to recognize when a relationship is hurting you and having the courage to name it.
Because you cannot address something you cannot name. And today, we are going to give you the names, the words, the phrases, so that you can have these conversations in English with clarity and confidence.
All right, let us get into it. Section 2, the vocabulary of toxic relationships. Here we go.
Okay, Rose. Before we can talk about toxic relationships, we need to build our vocabulary toolkit. Because these conversations require very specific words, and once you know these words, you will start noticing them everywhere, in conversations, in articles, in movies and shows.
Let us start with the most basic question. What does toxic actually mean in the context of relationships?
Great starting point. The word toxic originally comes from the world of science. It means poisonous, something that harms you physically. But in everyday English, when we say a relationship is toxic, we mean it is emotionally poisonous. It slowly damages your mental health, your confidence, your happiness, your sense of self.
So, for example, she finally realized the friendship was toxic. Every time they spent time together, she left feeling worse about herself. Never better, always worse.
The next important word, manipulation. Manipulation means when someone tries to control your thoughts, feelings, or behavior in a dishonest or unfair way. A manipulative person does not ask you directly for what they want. They trick you, they guilt you, they pressure you until you do what they want.
He was very manipulative. He would always make her feel guilty for spending time with her friends, so she slowly stopped seeing them altogether.
The next important word, Gaslighting. This is one of the most important words in this entire episode. Gaslighting means when someone makes you question your own memory, your own perception, your own sanity. They tell you that never happened, or you are imagining things, or you are too sensitive, when you know deep down that what you experienced was real.
Gaslighting is so damaging because it makes you distrust yourself. You start thinking, maybe I'm the problem, maybe I'm overreacting, and that self-doubt, that is exactly what the gaslighter wants.
Every time she brought up something that hurt her, he would say, "You are being dramatic. That never happened the way you think it did." Over time, she started to believe him. That is gaslighting.
Boundary. A boundary is a limit that you set about what you will and will not accept in a relationship. Healthy relationships respect boundaries. Toxic relationships constantly push, ignore, or violate them.
I need to set a clear boundary with my coworker. He keeps making personal comments about my life, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Next word, red flag. A red flag is a warning sign, something that tells you, pay attention, something is not right here. In relationships, red flags are early signs of toxic or harmful behavior.
Looking back, there were so many red flags in the beginning. He never respected her opinion. He always had to be right, but she ignored them because she liked him.
Next word, emotional abuse. This is when someone uses words, behavior, or silence to hurt, control, or intimidate you emotionally. It leaves no physical marks, but the damage is just as real and just as serious.
And this is so important. Emotional abuse is still abuse. Just because someone has never hurt you physically does not mean they haven't hurt you. Constantly criticizing, humiliating, isolating, or threatening someone, that is emotional abuse.
Next word, codependency. This is when two people in a relationship are so emotionally dependent on each other that it becomes unhealthy. One person often gives everything while the other takes everything, and neither person is truly growing or thriving.
Their relationship had become very codependent. She couldn't make any decisions without him, and he liked it that way because it gave him control.
Walking on eggshells. This is a beautiful and very common English expression. Walking on eggshells means you are constantly being very careful about what you say or do because you are afraid of upsetting someone. You are always nervous, always tense, always watching yourself.
I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells around him. I never know what will make him angry, so I just stay quiet and try not to say anything wrong.
So, our key vocabulary today: toxic, manipulation, gaslighting, boundary, red flag, emotional abuse, codependency, and walking on eggshells. These are powerful words, important words, words that can help you understand and describe what is happening in difficult relationships.
And in our next section, we are going to look at what toxic relationships actually look like in real life, because they don't always look the way we expect them to. Section 3. What toxic relationships look like in real life.
Okay, Alex, I think one of the reasons toxic relationships are so hard to recognize is that they rarely start out toxic. They often start beautifully, intensely, excitingly.
That is such an important point, Rose. Most people in toxic relationships did not walk in knowing it was going to be harmful. In the beginning, everything felt wonderful. The person seemed perfect. The relationship felt like exactly what they had been looking for.
And this is actually a very well-known pattern in toxic relationships. It is sometimes called love bombing. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with attention, affection, and compliments right at the start of a relationship. They make you feel incredibly special, like you are the most important person in the world to them.
So, for example, in the first month, he texted her constantly. He told her she was the most amazing person he had ever met. He bought her gifts. He wanted to spend every moment with her. She felt completely swept off her feet.
And then, gradually, things start to shift. The compliments become less frequent. The criticism starts, small at first, maybe just a comment about the way she dresses, or the friends she spends time with, or the way she laughs too loudly.
And because the relationship started so beautifully, she excuses the criticism. She thinks, oh, he's just having a bad day. Or maybe he has a point, maybe I should change. And slowly, without even realizing it, she starts becoming a smaller version of herself.
And this pattern, love bombing followed by gradual control and criticism, is one of the most common patterns in toxic romantic relationships. And it is so important to know about because when you are inside it, it is incredibly hard to see.
But toxic relationships are not only romantic. Toxic friendships are just as real and just as damaging. And they can be even harder to recognize because we often have lower expectations of accountability in friendships than in romantic relationships.
A toxic friend might be someone who only reaches out when they need something, who makes everything about themselves, who minimizes your achievements, who subtly puts you down in front of others, and then says, "Oh, I was just joking. Can you not take a joke?"
So, for example, every time she shared good news with her friend would find a way to make it seem less impressive, or she would immediately change the subject back to herself. After years of this, she realized this friendship does not lift me up, it pulls me down.
And then there is workplace toxicity. A toxic boss or coworker can make your entire professional life miserable. A toxic boss might take credit for your work, publicly humiliate you, give you impossible deadlines, and then blame you when they aren't met.
He worked incredibly hard on the project, but when the presentation was given to senior management, his boss presented all the ideas as her own. When he brought it up privately, she told him he was being oversensitive and that this was just how business worked.
And family toxicity, perhaps the most complicated of all, because we are taught from childhood that family is everything, that we must love and respect our family no matter what. And this makes it incredibly difficult to recognize or admit when a family relationship is toxic.
A toxic family member might constantly criticize your choices, compare you to others, make you feel guilty for having your own life. Use phrases like, "after everything I've done for you," as a way to control your behavior.
Every time she tried to make a decision about her own life, her parents would say, "We sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay us?" She loved her parents deeply, but she could not separate her own identity from their expectations. That is a form of emotional control.
So, toxic relationships exist in every area of life: romantic relationships, friendships, workplaces, and families. And they rarely look the way we expect. They often start beautifully. They are often mixed with genuine love and good moments. And that's exactly what makes them so hard to leave.
Coming up, we're going to give you the specific English phrases you need to talk about these experiences. Because having the vocabulary is one thing, but knowing how to put it into real sentences and real conversations, that's where the real power lies. Section 4. Phrases for talking about toxic relationships.
Okay, Rose, this is the section that I think our listeners have been waiting for, because understanding toxic relationships is important, but being able to talk about them in English, clearly, confidently, and accurately, that is transformative.
Absolutely. And whether you need these phrases to talk to a friend about what you are going through, or to describe a past experience, or to help someone else who is struggling, these phrases are going to be incredibly useful.
Category 1. Phrases for describing how a toxic relationship feels. These are the phrases that capture the emotional experience.
I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells around them. I feel like nothing I do is ever good enough. They make me feel small and worthless. I feel completely drained after spending time with them. I have lost myself in this relationship. I do not even recognize who I am anymore.
Category 2. Phrases for describing toxic behavior. These help you name what the other person is doing.
They are constantly putting me down. They twist my words and make me feel crazy. They never take responsibility for anything. They always play the victim. They make everything about themselves. They use my insecurities against me. They guilt trip me every time I try to set a boundary.
So, for example, I tried to tell him how I was feeling, and he completely twisted my words. By the end of the conversation, I was apologizing to him, even though he was the one who had hurt me. That is exactly what a toxic person does.
Category 3. Phrases for talking about recognizing the problem.
I finally realized that this relationship was not healthy. I started to see the red flags that I had been ignoring. It took me a long time to admit that things were toxic. Looking back, I can see how manipulative they were. I kept making excuses for their behavior, but I cannot do that anymore.
Category 4. Phrases for setting boundaries and speaking up.
I need to set some boundaries in this relationship. That kind of behavior is not acceptable to me. I will not allow you to speak to me that way. I need you to respect my limits. When you do that, it makes me feel disrespected, and I need it to stop.
So, for example, she finally found the courage to say, I need you to understand that when you criticize me in front of other people, it is deeply hurtful and disrespectful. I need that to stop. Simple, clear, firm. That's how you set a boundary in English.
Category 5. Phrases for talking about leaving or moving on.
I made the decision to walk away from that relationship. I realized that staying was doing more harm than good. I chose to put my mental health first. Letting go was the hardest thing I ever did, but also the best. I'm still healing from that relationship, but I'm getting stronger every day.
And I want to say something about that last set of phrases. Walking away from a toxic relationship, even when you know it's the right thing, is genuinely one of the hardest things a person can do, especially when there was real love involved or a long history or family ties. So if you're in that situation, please be gentle with yourself. Healing takes time, and you deserve that time.
Practice these phrases. Write them in your vocabulary journal. Say them out loud, because the day might come when you need them, and having the words ready in English means you can have that conversation clearly and confidently when it matters most.
Coming up, we're going to talk about something really important: how to help a friend who is in a toxic relationship. Because sometimes the hardest thing is not being in the toxic relationship yourself, but watching someone you love stay in one. Section 5. How to help a friend in a toxic relationship.
Okay, this section is so close to my heart because I think most of us have been in this situation at some point. You have a friend, someone you care deeply about, and you can see clearly that their relationship is toxic, but they cannot see it. Or they can see it, but they are not ready to leave. And you feel helpless. You want to help, but you do not know how.
And the instinct is often to just say, leave them. They are bad for you. Get out of that relationship. But as well-meaning as that is, it almost never works. And it can actually push your friend further away.
Because here's something important to understand about toxic relationships. They are often addictive. The cycle of tension, explosion, and then reconciliation, where the toxic person is suddenly loving and apologetic again, creates a very powerful emotional bond. It is not simple. It is not just a matter of deciding to leave.
So what should you do? Principle 1. Listen without judgment. The most powerful thing you can do for a friend in a toxic relationship is simply be there. Let them talk, let them process. Do not immediately jump to, you need to leave. Just listen.
I am here for you no matter what. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to judge you. I just want you to know that I care about you and I'm worried. How are you really feeling about all of this?
Principle 2. Name what you observe without attacking the other person. Instead of saying your partner is terrible and you need to leave, say what you have noticed about your friend's experience.
So instead of, he's so toxic, why are you still with him? You say, I've noticed that you seem really anxious and unhappy lately. I've noticed that you have stopped spending time with the people who love you. I'm just concerned about how you're feeling.
Principle 3. Remind them of who they are. Toxic relationships make people forget their own worth, so gently and consistently remind your friend of their value.
You deserve to be treated with respect. You are such an incredible person, and you deserve a relationship that reflects that. I remember who you were before this relationship, and I miss that version of you. You have so much to offer, and I want you to see that.
Principle 4. Be patient. Your friend might not be ready to leave. They might leave and go back multiple times. Research shows that on average, a person leaves a toxic or abusive relationship 7 times before leaving for good. 7 times.
So, if your friend goes back, do not give up on them. Do not say, "I told you so." Do not make them feel ashamed. Just keep being there. Keep the door open, because the day they're finally ready to leave, they will need you more than ever.
And Principle 5. Take care of yourself too. Supporting someone in a toxic relationship can be emotionally exhausting. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Make sure you are looking after your own mental health while you support your friend.
I care about you deeply, but I also need to protect my own emotional well-being. I will always be here for you, but I cannot watch you go through this without expressing my concerns. Supporting you through this has been hard for me too, and I need to be honest about that.
Coming up, we're going to talk about healing. Because whether you've left a toxic relationship or you're still processing one from the past, healing is a journey. And English has some beautiful vocabulary for that journey.
Section 6. Healing from a toxic relationship. The English vocabulary of recovery.
Rose, I want to start this section by acknowledging something. If you have been in a toxic relationship, whether recently or in the past, and you are listening to this episode, I want you to know something. What you went through was real. Your pain was real. And the fact that you are here, learning, growing, moving forward, that is something to be genuinely proud of.
Absolutely. Healing from a toxic relationship is not weakness. It is one of the strongest things a person can do. And today, we want to give you the English vocabulary of that healing journey.
The first word, closure. Closure means reaching a point of emotional resolution about a relationship or experience. Feeling like you can move forward without constantly looking back.
She realized she was never going to get the apology she deserved from him, so she decided to find closure within herself rather than waiting for it from him.
Self-worth. Your sense of your own value and importance as a person. Toxic relationships often destroy self-worth. Rebuilding it is one of the most important parts of healing.
After leaving that relationship, she slowly started to rebuild her self-worth. She remembered all the things she was good at, all the things that made her who she was before that relationship tried to change her.
Boundaries. Revisited. We talked about boundaries earlier as something to set in relationships. But in healing, we also talk about rebuilding your ability to set boundaries. Because toxic relationships often teach us that our boundaries do not matter. Part of healing is relearning that they do.
One of the biggest things she worked on in therapy was learning to set boundaries again. She had spent so long in a relationship where her boundaries were ignored that she had forgotten she was allowed to have them.
Therapy and counseling. These words are important because talking to a professional, a therapist or counselor, can be an incredibly powerful part of healing from a toxic relationship. And knowing how to talk about this in English is important. I have been going to therapy, and it has really helped me process what I went through. My counselor helped me understand the patterns that kept me in that relationship. I would really recommend speaking to a therapist if you are going through something similar.
Self-compassion. Being kind to yourself, not blaming yourself for what happened, not asking, "Why did I not leave sooner?" but instead saying, "I did the best I could with what I knew at the time."
And this one is so important. So many people who leave toxic relationships spend years blaming themselves. Why did I not see it sooner? Why did I stay so long? Why did I let that happen to me? And the answer is because you're a human. because you loved someone, because toxic relationships are designed to be hard to leave. That is not your fault.
Growth. Because as painful as toxic relationships are, they can also be some of our greatest teachers. They show us what we will not accept. They clarify our values. They teach us what we truly need in a relationship. And that knowledge, hard as it was to get, is genuinely valuable.
As painful as that relationship was, she grew so much from it. She learned her worth. She learned what she needed. She learned that she was stronger than she ever knew. And here are some powerful English phrases for talking about the healing journey. I am working on myself. I am taking things one day at a time. I am learning to love myself again. I am setting healthier boundaries in all my relationships now. I am not defined by what happened to me. I am choosing to focus on my own growth and happiness.
Healing is not linear. Some days you will feel strong and free. Other days, the old pain will come back. And both of those experiences are completely valid. What matters is that you keep going, keep choosing yourself, keep moving forward.
And in our final section, we bring everything together. A complete guide to talking about relationships, toxic and healthy, in English with confidence, clarity, and compassion. Section 7. Your complete guide to relationship conversations in English.
Okay, everyone, we have come such a long way in this episode. We have learned the vocabulary of toxic relationships. We have seen what they look like in real life. We have practiced the phrases. We have talked about helping friends and healing ourselves. Now, let us bring everything together into a complete guide for having relationship conversations in English.
Because relationships, all relationships, are one of the most important parts of human life, and being able to talk about them clearly, honestly, and compassionately in English, that is a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life.
Guide point 1. Always start with feelings before facts. When you are having a difficult relationship conversation in English, lead with how you feel rather than what the other person did. This makes the conversation less defensive and more open.
Instead of, you always ignore me, you say, I feel overlooked and unimportant when my messages go unanswered for days. Do you see the difference? Same situation, but one is an attack, the other is an honest expression of feeling.
Guide point 2. Use specific examples rather than generalizations. Instead of, you never listen to me, say, last Tuesday when I was telling you about my difficult day at work, you were on your phone the entire time. I felt like what I was saying did not matter to you.
Guide point 3. Know the difference between venting and seeking advice. Sometimes people just need to express how they are feeling. They are not asking for solutions. Before you launch into advice, ask, do you want me to just listen or would you like my thoughts?
Do you just need to vent or would you like some advice? I'm here to listen. Tell me everything. Would it help to talk through some options or do you just need to process right now?
Guide point 4. Validate before you advise. When someone shares something difficult with you, acknowledge their pain before offering any kind of solution or perspective.
That sounds really painful. I can completely understand why you feel that way. That must have been so hard for you. Your feelings make complete sense given what you went through. I am so sorry you had to experience that.
Guide point 5. Know when to encourage professional help. Sometimes the most loving thing you can say to someone is, I think it might help to talk to a professional about this.
Have you ever considered speaking to a therapist about this? What you are going through sounds really heavy, and I think a professional could give you the support you truly deserve. There is absolutely no shame in seeking help. In fact, it takes real courage.
Guide point 6. Practice the vocabulary. All the words and phrases we covered today, toxic, gaslighting, manipulation, boundaries, red flags, walking on eggshells, self-worth, closure, self-compassion, write them down. Practice using them in sentences. The more naturally they come to you, the more effectively you can use them when they really matter.
And guide point 7, remember that healthy relationships exist. Because sometimes after a toxic relationship, it can feel like all relationships are dangerous, like trust is impossible, like love always comes with pain, and that is not true.
Healthy relationships exist. Relationships built on mutual respect, genuine care, honest communication, and real trust. They exist, and you deserve one. Not someday, now.
Today, we built our vocabulary of toxic relationships. We explored what they look like in real life across different types of relationships. We practiced real English phrases for describing, addressing, and moving beyond toxicity. We talked about supporting friends. We talked about healing, and we gave you a complete guide to relationship conversations in English.
That is so much, and all of it, every single word, is in service of one goal, helping you have the conversations that matter, in English, with confidence and clarity.
Thank you so much for being here with us for episode 5 of Noor Daily English. This episode was made with so much care because relationships matter, your well-being matters, and your voice in English matters.
If this episode helped you, share it with someone who needs it to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change with one share.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a comment. Have you ever had to navigate a toxic relationship? What helped you? We read every single comment and we love hearing from you.
See you in episode 6.
Until next time, choose yourself, protect your peace, and keep speaking. This is Rose.
And this is Alex.
From Noor Daily English. See you next time.